collect. You take the statistics and you apply what's called a margin of error to them. We'll get to that in about 30 seconds. That's the important thing. That's the real reason I'm getting at this, is so that you as Americans and consumers of media understand what a margin of error is. That's what I really care about. The idea that a study done generates a statistic. You want the parameter, and these things should be close if the study was done properly. But even if it's done properly, there's going to be error in the study because you don't have the entire population. But there's a control for that called a margin of error, and we'll talk about that briefly. Anybody ever heard of a margin of error before?
Oh, yeah.
It gets ignored a lot, but hopefully you've heard. Anybody ever used them before? Good! That's 3 or 4 more than usual in most math classes.
Possible handicap, golf, bowling.
Say that again, John?
Kind of like a handicap in golf or bowling.
Is that when like you play with somebody better than you and you get to like take points off your score? Is that that's what that is, right?
Like a handicap.
It is because it's based on averages. So you, on average, you could take 3 or 4 points or whatever pins off. Yeah, it's based on that. But there's a little bit more randomness involved in this. That's a little more exact. Like you will take 4 points off. The plus or minus involved in a margin of error is a little more broad-reaching. Yours is definitely a subset of that, for sure. For sure. But I want to go with a more general idea, if that's okay. Because I suck at bowling, and I probably would suck at golf, too, if I tried. Cool so far? Any questions you guys have right now before I get into this whole margin of error bit? And feel free to kick in anything. If you guys have experiences with this kind of stuff in your academic or daily lives, fire them out. I want to hear them. I want to hear them. All right. Here, it's a little bit old. It's about 2.5 years old. But I love the topic, and I love the limitations in the sample, and I love the implications of it. So take a look. Sorry about the little robot camera, kind of blocking some of the text. Apologies. How many of you have seen something like this before? Yeah. Read the paper. Log on to your Facebook account. Something like this comes across it pretty frequently, I would imagine. Sometimes you have to dig to find the actual results, and this is only 5% of what the actual article was. I kind of pulled out the parts I wanted to focus on and left out the texty stuff. Like I described, this is their sampling methodology down here, but there's a lot more about how they did their sampling, which exact. They asked more questions than this, but I figured these were good ones to look at. So what do you think? What jumps out at you? What jumps out at you? Tell me your name.
Sherry.
Sherry, go.
The random sampling of people live in the continental U.S.
Mm-hmm. What, does that bother you?
Yeah.
Tell me why it bothers you.
People in Hawaii and Alaska.
Whose state they're actually talking about drilling in.
Yeah.
Might be kind of interesting that they're only asking continental United States folks. Why would they exclude Alaskans and Hawaiians? Oh, John, you have something else to say.
I was just going to add to what she was saying.
Oh, okay.
Is that a lot of the people in the continental United States that they've probably called aren't even on the coast.
True. So you may have a vested interest if you're coastal talking about offshore drilling versus being in Iowa talking about offshore drilling.
Like Alaska and Hawaii.
Like Alaska and Hawaii, 2 of the most coastal states we have. I mean, honestly, you talk about Florida, California, and you look at Alaska and Hawaii. So yeah, I mean, why would they exclude Alaskans? I can think of another reason why they might exclude Alaskans too, a more scientific reason, and this is not at all obvious to you. Anybody from Alaska here? I believe, Sydney, correct me if I'm wrong, Alaskans actually get a chunk of money from petroleum companies based on sales. So they might actually inflate the numbers artificially because, well, hell yeah, offshore drill, I get more money in my pocket. So that is correct. Good, good. I remember hearing that from a few folks.
Yeah.
And that's got to be nice, right? Here's a check in the mail for doing nothing, essentially, except living in Alaska. So that could be a reason, too. We don't want to inflate the percentages higher. But I can't ignore the fact that we're talking about drilling in Alaska, and Alaskans aren't being part of the discussion, unless that was the intent, to exclude Alaskans and only get the contiguous. But why exclude Hawaii? I don't know. I have no good answer there for that one. Okay, other things you notice. Please, Renee, go ahead.
Is there a margin of error with the margin
That's very meta, my friend. The margin of error, the margin of error. It's like I forgot to remember to forget. Bless you, Johnny Cash. The margin of error takes care of the error I mentioned before. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. Can I spin off of that, Renee? 6 in 10 Americans favor increasing offshore drilling for oil and gas. Wrong. No. 6 in 10 people in your sample do. 6 in 10 people in your sample favor drilling. And I can see that right here. 60% favor from March 3 to 6, 2011. Not 6%, 60% of Americans. 60% of Americans in your sample. We can't say that that's the same as the percentage of the Americans that favor it. Okay? And you shouldn't call them Americans anyway. You should call them contiguous United States Americans. We're leaving Alaska and Hawaii out of it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. But let's let that go for a little while. We shouldn't even call it 60%. We should admit that because of this margin of error down here, where was it? Here it is. It's probably not 60%. It could be as low as 56% or as high as 64%. We cannot say that it's 60. The best we can do is give them a range of values. And with 95% confidence, which we'll definitely get into in Math 244, we can claim that it's between those two numbers. It might be 60%. It might be 61%. It might be 62. It might be 58. But 95% of the time, if I ask that many people and construct what's called a confidence interval, 95% of the time, the true value will be within the low and the high. That's what your margin of error is. It's the margin of error about that statistic in the middle. So here's a question I have for you guys. Do I agree, assuming a 4% margin of error, that more people favor than oppose as a percentage? That a higher percentage favor than oppose offshore drilling?
Yeah.
Clearly. Because even if I take 4 percentage points away from 60, it's at 56, right? Mm-hmm. And if I add 4 to 37, it's at 41, and 41 is still lower than 56. So I can say with confidence in this poll, more favor than oppose. Is that fair? Can I support their claim that it's up from 50% in May 2010?
No.
What do you think about this one? Okay, I see a yes and a no. I love it. Let me hear no first. Why can I say no?
Because there's a 4%, and that would bring 49 down to 45.
Okay, oh, no, not here. I'm looking up here now, the favor versus oppose. So we're at 60 now, plus or minus 4.
Right.
And it was at 50. One concern I have, I don't know the plus or minus on the 50.
Okay, right.
I'm going to call it 4%.
Yeah.
Probably a similar poll.
Right.
So, assuming this was 50% in May 2010, Patrick, what do you think? And it's 60% now, what do you think? What do you think? Go with it. You nodded earlier. Is it higher?
Yeah.
I say yeah. Because at the lowest, what's 60% again? 56. And at the highest, what's 50%? 54. That's a 2 percentage point difference. Is that practically significant? Hell if I know. But it's bigger. It's bigger. It's 2% bigger. I don't know what that means. It's 2% of America, right? Theoretically, it's 2% of Americans. That's a whole lot of people, right? It's a couple 100,000 people. So whether or not it's practically significant is arguable. But statistically, it is. 56 is above 54. So I agree with that.
53. 49 and 4.
You're going down here. You keep going down here. I love this.
Yeah.
I want to go here too, because this is a different question. This is, do you think ANWR should be opened?
Oh.
Yeah. And the problem with this one is, this does not support their claim, does it? They say we're okay with offshore drilling in Alaska, which is predominantly ANWR. That was the big discussion. It probably still will be for years to come. 49% say yes, 45% no. So can we say that more are saying yes? We cannot say that because of exactly what Madeline is saying. 49% has to be plus or minus 4%, which means this could be as low as 45 or as high as 53. I'm going the wrong way. 45, 53. Yes, somebody's saying it back there, yes. This might be 41 or 49. So it's actually possible. Possible. This might be higher than this because those two intervals we've created overlap each other. And when they overlap, you ever heard the phrase statistical dead heat?
No.
Never? Oh, really? Oh, they got so good back in the 2008 election about using that term on CNN. I would send them an email like every 3 days because they weren't publishing margins of error in their polls. They were saying things like Obama, or not Obama, it was Obama. Yeah, it was Obama.
Yeah.
Obama McCain. Obama's up 42 to 41%. I'm like, he's not up. There's a margin of error that's bigger than 1%. That's including that, but they weren't publishing it. So every day or a couple days I send an email to CNN. And then after about 3 months, I started seeing margins of error pop up, and I patted myself on the back. I'm sure it wasn't me. And they started talking about 41 to 42% being a statistical dead heat. Because when you put the margin of error on the 41 and 42, they overlay each other, and you can't tell who's in front. This one is clear. There's no overlaying here, is there? Even if you put 4% on them, there's no overlaying. 60 and 50 with 4%, there's no overlaying. They're closer, but there's still no overlaying. 49 and 45, there's total overlaying. You can't tell which one's higher, if either. So that's a statistical dead heat. That's what it's commonly called in the news. That make sense? For those of you not taking 244, I find it impossible to let you out of this class without at least a minor discussion of margin of error. Expect to see it again and again and again in the next 5 weeks. I'll keep finding ways to bring it back, because it's hugely important. Okay, you're getting that look. Like you need a break and then to walk around. So let me pause this.